Welcome to Real Talk Mormonism, folks. I am your humble host, D-Bays, and that is Talent on Loan from Kolob. We're here to discuss all things Mormonism, whether you're interested in church history, theology, or current events. This is your show, your time to shine, your platform. We welcome both critics of the faith and defenders of the religion to join the conversation. This is your time to shine, whether you don't know the first thing about Mormonism or you are currently serving on the Strengthening Church Members Committee at church headquarters. There are no dumb questions. Nothing is off limits. Ask me anything. Stump the Chump. No holds barred. Outsmart the know-it-all. No script, no rules. Of course, except for YouTube's terms of service. Simply click on the StreamYard link that is flowing along the bottom here to share your thoughts, questions, and insights on anything at all that is LDS related. So long as it deals with Mormonism, we can talk about it, engage in a lively discussion, and explore diverse perspectives on Mormonism with this one-of-a-kind interactive call-in show. As I see no one in the comments, that is okay. I do have a couple of things that I want to go over in lieu of no one calling in, which is perfectly acceptable. I'd like to welcome, John Ferreiro. Did the first vision really happen, or was it a big hoax? That is an interesting question, my friend. See, when it comes to a claim like that, it's a dime a dozen for people to say that they had claims with, visiting with Harry, with Lord Krishna, or having the goddess Bath visit you, or any other supernatural claim, saying that you've been abducted by aliens. I will put those into the same claim, the same genre of claims, or saying that you've seen Elvis walking around. Any claim that deals with supernatural, of course, the default position, the not position for any claim is rejection. So we need to wait for good evidence before we accept such a claim. And that is exceptionally very, very difficult for a claim like, I saw God out in the woods. You would need to be able to provide good evidence in order to accept that claim. Now, when it comes to the first vision in particular, I went to go to the first vision in Palmyra, which allegedly happened in the church's official narrative now in 1820, but it seems like all available information really more like pins that information or the supposed first vision around 1824, if it happened at all. It has been retrofit into the narrative. The foundation of Mormonism was really the angel Nephi/Moroni in September of 1823. The first vision was almost completely unknown for at least 12 years after it happened. Joseph Smith did not mention it to anyone whatsoever. He only wrote it in his journal, and he did not talk about it with the general membership of the church at all. And it was not canonized into the LDS scriptures until, I believe it was 1880. So it was not a foundational element of the church. In fact, even church prophets like, I think it was Wilford Woodruff, was unaware of this even decades after the fact. So the idea that the first vision has met its burden of proof, I don't think that it has. Of course, it's an event that cannot be falsified, meaning, we can't disprove that it happened. I don't think anybody has enough information to disprove it. But it has certainly not met its burden of proof. But if you want to talk more about this, John, just follow the link down below and be certainly willing to talk about it. I hope I'm not experiencing some lag, because I feel like I am. But thanks for the question there, John. Appreciate it. Now, in lieu of any questions that anyone else might have out there, the Widow's Mite report is something that has been on my to-do list to go back and take a look at. This is a church watchdog, and it provides research and analysis on the state of wealth in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and has a number of different areas. I remember when this very first came out in 2022, it was a breath of fresh air, and it seems like everything that the Widow's Mite report has brought up about the church has been very precedent. It has been very, very good. So the Widow's Mite report, the launch was in 2021, and there's a number of sections in here, and there's one new section that has been brought up that I want to discuss. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but it's an analysis of the claims against the LDS Church under Australia's ongoing restitution program for victims of institutional sexual abuse. This just came out a couple of days ago. I have not had a chance to review it, but I'm going to do so at this time. Content warning: this report contains discussions of child sexual abuse data and statistics. Please refer to the following link for information on what to do if you suspect a child or are a victim of abuse. Unless otherwise noted, all monetary figures in this report are in US dollars. So let us see what is going on with this. LDS Church implications of child sexual abuse claims in Australia. This was just revised just 2 days ago. Hey, Coach, welcome to the program. Nice to see you on the program. In 2018, Australia commenced a 10-year program to provide compensation counseling and formal apologies to child sexual abuse survivors who are abused in or because of Australian institutions. Under this new federal system of accountability, non-participating charities risked losing their registered status. As a result, nearly all Australian charities, including the LDS Church, participated. Lee, welcome to the program. Nice to see you. The LDS Church has reported active claims made under this victim compensation program since 2019. There's been 44 claims that have been filed, of which 17 came in 2023. New claims appear to be accelerating as program execution improves. Extrapolating to 2028, when the program ends, we estimate that the church will face 107 total claims under Australia's National Redress Scheme for institutional child sexual abuse. This equates to 1 out of every 1,500 members. That seems like a high number, though I don't know that for certainty. I don't know what the normal rate is. Based on our analysis, if the church were to offer a similar restitution program globally, or if all other countries enacted comparable programs, we estimate 10,000 plus victims could come forward to claim compensation, counseling, and an apology for child sex abuse, where the church bears some responsibility. The cost of this would, of course, be billions of dollars. And now the Widows' Mite report could not find claims data for other major religions in Australia, all of which also participate. The church may be uniquely obliged to report its claims due to its complex tax avoidance structure. So the church in Australia has really engaged in some really very difficult, or shall we say, very problematic tax avoidance schemes in the country of Australia. And the Sydney Morning Herald in particular brought up the fact that the church was trying to avoid taxes. Sydney Morning Herald. Sorry about this. This is kind of a live show. See, this is just recently. Mormons walk away from major multinational tax evasion schemes. So after the Sydney Morning Herald, which is basically the New York Times of Australia, brought to light the church's ridiculous and really quite the tax avoidance scheme, which seems to be very problematic, they gave it all up. The Mormon Church is significantly reducing its use of a controversial shell company after an investigation revealed that it had engaged in serious tax evasion in Australia. So we all know about Ensign Peak, which is the church's investment arm. But in Australia, the church also had a shell company, which it used to try to avoid taxes. And it did so in an extremely nefarious way. And that's, in fact, why a huge tort was brought in Australia for Mormon church tax. All of these people filed the tax evasion office filed this. The Australian tax office investigated dodgy LDS financial practices, and this was in Australia. In Australia, tithing to a religious organization is not tax deductible, and that's in difference to the United States where it is. This is because a large proportion of money that is typically donated to churches in Australia is used to pay the priest's salary and the day-to-day running costs of the church, and is not used for genuinely charitable purposes. So you have to prove in Australia that you're actually using your donation to help other people. And of course, why should the Australian government help Mormons recruit more Mormons? The LDS Church is essentially the only religious group in Australia where its members can claim a tax deduction on their tithes. This is all true. Since about 2014, the Australian LDS Church has enabled its members to claim their tax back on their tithing using financial arrangements, not unlike those used by Ensign Peak. Peter, we need you to come on the program here to talk about this, because we know that you know a great deal about this. In 2012, the Australian LDS Church created a shell charity named LDS Charities Australia. And this is the important point here. In Australia, members of the church did not pay tithing to the church itself. They paid to a shell company called LDS Charities Australia in order to try to get tax exempt status so that their tithes and donations would be considered a tax deduction. Since 2014, over $400 million has been funneled through LDS Charities Australia and out again to global humanitarian causes. This is a significant, sizable portion of the global LDS Church's humanitarian aid paid out since 2014. The money here, the allegation is that the money has been funneled through Australia to make it look like the humanitarian donations came from Australian Mormons. So if you think about it, look, 400 million over the course of 10 years. There's not enough Australian saints to make those numbers compatible because there's only like 100,000 Mormons in Australia and not all of them pay tithing. So the numbers were way out of whack. As a direct result of this dodgy arrangement, the Australian Tax Office gave the Australian LDS Church a deductible gift recipient status, which has enabled Australian Mormons to claim 100% of their tax back on their tithing. Almost all members in Australia had never heard of LDS Charities Australia before it was exposed in late 2021. And that's when a complaint was filed with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission about the financial irregularities of the LDS Church annual charity filings. In this year's May budget, the Australian government allocated 3 to 4 million to the tax office to monitor compliance within the charity sector. Just recently, I learned the Australian Tax Office is now investigating the Australian LDS Church. And we've heard that from a number of different sources, even though that they won't confirm it. We've heard it anecdotally through the grapevine, through a serious degree. And Lee is saying laundering. That's the allegation here, is that the church laundered money through the Australian shell company in Australia to get a double tax break. Not only the tax breaks from the money going into the the shell company, but the money coming back out to benefit the church, double dipping. So as Peter said, who is an Australian, any amount over $2 to a recognized charity is claimable on your yearly tax return. I have a bit to do with the Charities Commission due to my veterans group being a recognized charity. It's extremely likely that a major outcome of this investigation will be that the ties to the LDS Church in Australia will no longer be tax deductible. And that's the whole point here, is that the church has walked away from this very questionable tax scheme as soon as it was brought to light. This is the same thing that the church went through with Ensign Peak. As soon as the shady practices with Ensign Peak were brought to light, they all of a sudden said, okay, we're going to start doing the right thing. They did the same thing in Australia. As soon as the church gets its hand caught in the cookie jar, they stop taking the cookies out of there. Tithing is a regressive church tax that hurts most those who can least afford to pay it, because people who typically give to churches are usually low-income people. The loss of the ability to claim tithing as a tax deduction in Australia will place enormous pressure on poor Australian Mormons. Meanwhile, the value of Ensign Peak portfolio is now estimated to be about $185 billion. The annual interest alone on these investments is about double what it costs to run the Mormon church each year. Something has to give. And don't forget, back in 1907, Joseph F. Smith said that we expect to see the day when we will not have to ask you for $1 or donation of any purpose, because we will have tithes sufficient in the storehouse of the Lord to pay everything that is needful for the kingdom of God. So there is no reason that the church cannot change its tithing policy. So yes, tithing is a very, very interesting thing here in Australia. And if you look at torts for there was a giant tort that was filed in Australia for tithing. I'm trying to find this. If I can see that, I can find it. Yes. Reports claim LDS Church changing tax structure in Australia to avoid breaching tax laws. Yeah, so they gave up on this entire thing, as we just discussed. Church donations and tithing in Australia are not tax deductible unless the church is also a registered charity, according to the tax code. And this is the problem, is that the Mormon church has claimed a huge amount of charity in Australia. But the problem is that the church doesn't have any soup kitchens. It doesn't have any orphanages. It doesn't run any hospitals. And the amount of money that the church was claimed in Australia in order to make sure that its shell company was supposedly tax deductible was incongruous with the number of Mormons who were there and the output of the church itself. There was only 5 people. You supposedly have this multi-million-dollar tax, this charity in Australia, which would have been one of the biggest charities in all of Australia. And you had 0 full-time personnel who were manning this charity that had tens of billions of dollars in it every single year. And you only had 5 part-timers. It was completely incongruous. That's why there's been a big tort that has been filed in Australia. And the church, could be having a large fine in Australia as well. As Peter said, given how few Mormons there are here in Australia, I'm not surprised that they were shown some interest by the tax office. That's true. In Australia, it is a secular country. It's not like our Christian nation here in the United States. They take a very dim view of religion to begin with, and they don't take very kindly to Mormons ripping off the tax structure, or allegedly ripping off the tax code in order to, gin up a bunch of money for the church. They're not going to take very kindly to that. So backing back out of this small digression here, let's go back to the Widow's Mite report, which we were actually on the topic of child sex abuse. Thanks again, Peter, for that. Let's go on to the next page here because we're wanting to talk about child sex abuse in Australia in particular. Australia's National Restitution Program and the LDS Church. The restitution program runs from 2018 to 2028. Victims of abuse before then can apply during any time in these years. Participating institutions are required to fund up to $100,000 per case for counseling services and provide an apology. So the church has reported 44 claims so far, of which 17 were filed in 2023. New claims appear to be accelerating as program execution improves, particularly with changes implemented in 2021. If the trend continues until 2028, the church will receive about 100 claims. And again, we're talking about $100,000 each or so. The midpoint of the range is about 107. If our working forecast of claims the church would face, again, that would be about $10 million. So there's your forecasting here. It doesn't look like this will be too significant for the church. This is the first time that I'm coming across this information. So imagine, like I said, Harold said, imagine if the U.S. government did this. I don't think that will happen in the United States. Australia has only 1% of global church membership. To relate key Australian membership figures to the global church, we would need to multiply that by 110. So what claims in Australia mean for the global LDS church? So what we're trying to do here is forecast. This is what the Widows Might report is apparently trying to do. If we know the rates of abuse in Australia and how many claims have gone forward, we can then multiply that and figure out what the rates of abuse are to the church as a whole. Now, this may not be a perfect analogy because obviously the rates of abuse are going to be varying greatly between different countries, but it can give us a general idea of abuse rate. I think it's an interesting concept, although perhaps somewhat limited in its application. Our forecast of 107 total claims in Australia suggests that about 10,000 victimized members could come forward to claim compensation, counseling, and apology if the church were involved in a global program like Australia's. The settlement average of $100,000 each would cost the church about $1 billion. So this is what they're postulating, that if we extrapolate what has happened in Australia out to the larger church as a whole, that the church currently would have about 10,000 people who could claim CSA or sexual abuse of some kind. That's an interesting number. Not sure if we can confirm the accuracy, but it's certainly just an estimate. So these estimates are in addition to the abuse cases already reported and settled via the scouting on law enforcement of the church's abuse helpline. So, of course, the church is on the hook here for a class action of tens of thousands of scouts as well in the United States who are abused under the scouting program. And naturally, the church abandoned the scouting program when President Nelson took over in 2018 or 2019. And as Peter has said, this is the outcome of the Royal Commission in 2015. Very good stuff here. Let's look here. Australian LDS Church, again, we're looking at an estimated cost in Australia of $11 million. But if we were to extrapolate that to the church as a whole, it would be approximately $1 billion, which, again, for the church, that is chump change. Their church earns approximately $1 billion each and every week. So even if the church were, had all of these cases that came to the forefront, the church could handle it easily. And don't forget that the church has insurance for child sex abuse as well. The church has actually 2 insurers for child sex abuse. And I just want to cover that the church, in fact, has suing its own insurer for child sex abuse. Maybe it's hard to extemporaneously talk about these things, but the church is suing its own insurance provider over the sexual abuse claims. This is absolutely unbelievable.
Welcome to.
I guess I should have queued this up ahead of time here. Well, William Charles, welcome to the program. Harold Earthlayer, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. Let's see what's going on with the LDS Church suing its own insurer with regards to child sex abuse settlement claims here. Sorry, I got to wait for this ad to load up here. But it has filed a lawsuit here just last year against its insurance providers. It has 2 providers that do child sex abuse, demanding that they cover the costs of child sex abuse lawsuits. So let's play this.
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints now suing its insurance providers for the cost of covering a sex abuse settlement. Fox 13 News reporter Ben Winslow has more.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has filed a lawsuit against 2 of its insurance providers in federal court, demanding that they pick up the cost of a settlement for sex abuse out of West Virginia. Now, the church was originally sued back in 2013, accused of failing to report suspicion of abuse to the proper authorities as required under West Virginia law.
And we've seen that happen so many times, once again, where the church does not report the child sex abuse that comes to its attention, typically through the clergy, through the bishops, through the stake presidents. And they have been sued a number of times for not reporting that in accordance with local laws. So this is not surprising at all.
Failure to train clergy to recognize abuse and guard against harm by warning parents or the children involved and allowing them to come in contact with their abuser. The church settled that lawsuit in 2018. Now it wants its insurers, National Union and ACE, to cover the costs under the terms of its insurance plan. The insurers say in court filings the church's financial limits for coverage haven't been exhausted and the church should pay out of its own pockets. Sam Brunson, a law professor at Loyola University Chicago who specializes in nonprofits and tax law, says this is a typical insurance payment dispute, even if the parties involved are noteworthy and the circumstances are unusual.
For those of us who are used to car insurance or health insurance, it's kind of like our deductible. They said, we will pay your costs in excess of this deductible amount, but you haven't met it with this settlement. So then the church went and it sued saying, no, you really need to pay us under this policy.
Now, how much money we're talking in this lawsuit, we don't know. That's because everything has been redacted in court filings, meaning we can't see it. The church declined to comment to Fox 13 News on its lawsuit, and lawyers for the insurance providers have not returned our requests for comment. A federal judge will take up this case with a motion for summary judgment scheduled next month.
Okay, I see you, Joshua, in the chat. Before I get to you, I want you to type back to me in the private chat. What do you want to talk about before I let you onto the program? So just to comment on that, what I believe that this, I'm not a lawyer here, and Mr. Brunson there is obviously one of the best lawyers out there. But what I believe that this indicates, that we covered this on the Mormon News Roundup last year, is that the epidemic of child sex abuse in the church is so acute that the church's insurers are saying, we've met the deductible and we don't want to pay anymore because it's costing us so much money. I don't know that for certainty, but okay. I've got somebody who's going to join the program. Joshua Beckman, welcome to the Mormon News Roundup, my friend. What Mormon thing do you want to talk about?
Hey, man. I just wanted to warn you. It's not me, but there's a group who is coming to DDoS you right now. And I just wanted you to know.
Hey, thanks for the heads up, buddy. I appreciate that.
You're getting fully DDoSed, and these guys cannot be banned.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Okay.
No problem.
Okay. We'll see you later. Hey, Peter, thanks for the super chat. I've wondered about that for quite some time. I figure that somebody is eventually going to out me. I mean, it's not very hard to figure out who I am. Basic facial recognition software, Hey, here they are. They're in the live chats. Let's go. Hey, let's go. Excellent.
Yeah, they're getting you for sure.
Thanks a lot. Hey, it's better than nothing. I appreciate that. Let's see if I can stop the tide before it comes in. As Peter
You're being DDoSed.
As Peter said, the U.S. needs a federal inquiry. It makes a huge difference in in Australia. That's good. Hey, wow, this is the first time I've had to deal with this. If you look at the live chat, boy, they are coming. Sweet. Look at these guys. Whoa, let's go. DDoS. Boy, this is the first time I've had to deal with that for the trolls out there. Hey, no problem. Appreciate the trolls. Thanks a lot. Hey, while you're at it, since there's so many people out, can you hit the like button here, all of you guys out there, the DDoS guys? Can you hit the like and subscribe? Appreciate that. Let's go. I like this. We're making it happen here. Nice. This is pretty fun. Hey, Peter Higgs, once again, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming in here. Hey, Joshua, can you type into the chat here? How did you know that this was going to take place, Joshua? You're muted there, Joshua. Joshua, you're muted.
Sorry about that. You muted me before. Sorry, I didn't realize. You were your link. I don't know much about you, man, but your link was posted in a hacker forum I'm a part of.
Cool.
When I see these guys getting ready to like attack somebody like they're trying to do to you right now, I like to go warn the people. I'm not like a bad guy. So
I appreciate it. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Okay. I got you. Okay, no problem. Hey, bring on the haters. I like the haters. Let's keep on going. So let's take a look here. Tax structure may explain the church's reporting of claims. The LDS Church appears to be the only major denomination with the practice of receiving all Australian member tithes and offerings into the DGR. And that's what we talked about earlier. All of the tithing, instead of being paid to the church, this is basically the only place that, the only country where you don't pay to the church itself. You actually just pay to the shell company. And that's a very big surprise. Now, while all major religions participate in Australia's ongoing restitution program for victims of child sex abuse, the church appears to be the only major denomination to report active claims. That's very interesting to me as well. Boy, man. Boy, these guys are coming for me. This is great here. Well, they're killing my stream here, but I'm fighting back here. So the denomination LDS Church, the financial administration of the church definitely is global. It is run through Salt Lake City itself. It's not administered by Australians to Australians. And the NRS claims data reported is active for sure. Now, will I be able to get rid of these guys? That's the question. I wonder. These guys might be smarter than I am. There's no doubt about that. Oh, boy, the guys are killing my stream. It's all good, though. It's all good. I appreciate it. Financial administration, active claims, potential liability. Okay, I think we got it. Let's move on to the next slide here. There's only a couple of slides here. Let's keep it going. Data on the horrific crime of child sex abuse is very difficult to find. That is for certain. Measure or validate. Despite our best efforts to provide a comparable analysis, we acknowledge the limitations and the limitations that follow. Gee whiz, this is hard to... Oh, that's a lie, Dives. The LDS are never making it in the news, unlike other ones. Man, these guys are coming after us, man. I wonder how you got to knock them down here, boy. Sorry, they kind of hijacked my stream here. I've got all of these guys that I got to ban out of here. Let's see here. Sorry. Based on linked references to Source 13, the Catholic Church in the U.S. is believed to have paid over $4 billion in settlements. Stella HP, what do you want to talk about? You need to type to me in the chat what you guys want to talk about on Real Talk Mormonism before we bring you on. Same with Branya. You need to type what is what you want to talk about in here. I'm trying to block them. So this is getting out of control. I'm trying here. So let's see here. Stella, how to stop the DOS? All right, okay. Stella, how do you stop these DOS guys? You got to help me out here.
With my titties.
Oh, man. I figured. So, Branya, what do you want to talk about? You think, oh boy, I'm getting trolled here big time. What's up there, Branya? What Mormon thing do you want to talk about? Yeah. I got to get better at getting all these guys out of here, man. These guys are coming out in force. I'm trying, Song. What can I tell you, boy? They are coming out in force tonight. What can I tell you? I got to get better at this. Okay, based on the linked references, the Catholic Church in the U.S. is believed to have paid over $4 billion in settlements. Very interesting here. I got to ban these guys from the studios here. And Joshua, I appreciate you, but I don't trust you, Joshua. Man, holy cow, we got a major denial of services here. Boy, these guys are so smart. How do they get back on after I ban it? Boy, these guys are very, very crafty out there. Sorry, guys, this is kind of derailed my my situation. How to make someone a mod? Yeah, I've got to elevate you to a mod status. Okay, Cults, you got to ban these guys here. You guys got to help me, man. The guys are taking me down. They're taking over. DDoS? I don't even know. I'm sorry. What is a DDoS, guys? I don't even know what a DDoS attack is, man. I got to Google this. What is a DDoS attack? A DDoS attack? I don't know what this is. These guys are killing me here. DDoS, a distributed denial, is a cyber attack that disrupts a network resource by flooding it with fake traffic. Okay, Culch, you got to ban all of these guys out of here. Yeah, they keep coming in with different names. That's the thing about it. They keep coming with the different names. Culch, help out. Okay. Denial. These guys are crushing me. Culch to the rescue. Oh man, they got so many different names. I don't know how they do it. Oh boy. Oh, I don't know about modding these people. Sorry, this live stream has really these guys are really coming back here. Well, I'm getting super chats here. Was that from Bat Boy? Oh man, this is awesome. Yeah, they're coming in with they're coming in with different accounts here. Oh. Joshua, you can type. Oh man, they are really coming in with the. They are really coming in. You know, Joshua, I don't trust you, man. Okay, Joshua, you're back. What do you want to say, buddy?
What's up, man? Yeah, the thing is this is my asshole. This is my wallet.
These guys are killing me, man. This is gonna make the rounds, man. These guys are too good. I'm trying to knock them down, but yeah, I thought so. How these guys stay back up? Man, crazy. That's all right. Okay, well, Joshua, you had your moment in the sun. That's pretty sweet there. Yeah, I don't know. Harold says, did the cavalry send them? I don't need to ban him anymore. I will just keep him off a stage, though. I don't have to invite him on. They can hang out. I appreciate the likes, though. I mean, I'm getting major traffic here from these guys. That's pretty sweet. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, DDoS guys. Hey, Culch, thanks for knocking them down for us. Let's go. That's right, William Charles. The devil is sending these guys. I can definitely confirm that to be sure. This must be devil insinuating stuff. Yeah. How long will they hang out for, though? That's what I wonder. What? Yeah, songs. They are changing accounts. These guys are. This is like Star Trek here, man. This is pretty slick, man. Oh boy. How do they change the accounts here? Man, this is crazy. How do they do it? I'm going to have to do some research in between that next stream and the next one to be able to ban these guys. How to StreamYard DDoS. StreamYard uses a number of DDoS okay, hold on. Protection strategies and tools. You can reach our security team at security here. This is interesting. Denial of physical security here. Very interesting here. Yeah, Doug, this is the new strengthening church members tactic. That's definitely could be, you know. I don't think I can take anybody on here tonight. I think these guys are absolutely on this. And this is happening in a Facebook group that I was modding as well. They do it with programming. Interesting. So they keep hopping around here. I don't think I can take anybody in here because I don't know who's true and who's not. Boy, this is crazy. Ah, man, how many of these guys are going to fake me out, though? That's what this is crazy. Okay, what do you want, Mike? Yeah, I thought so. Man, these guys have got me, man. They are killing me. Oh, boy. No, these guys, there's no way these guys are Mormons. They are no way, man. LDS Mafia, don't air our dirty laundry. Pretty interesting stuff here. Oh, boy. All right, we're going to continue on there. I think we got most of it under control. I'm not going to be able to take anybody on tonight. That's unfortunate here. So I'm going to stop this banner because I don't think it's going to happen here. So scouting cases support of estimated of abuse potential claims in context of our estimated 10,000 likely claims. Under a hypothetical church-wide child sex abuse restitution program, at least 92,000 claims have been filed against the Boy Scouts as of 2020. There's no doubt about that. That much we definitely do know. The final settlement approved in bankruptcy court was $2.5 billion, which was about $26,000 per claim. Boys from the LDS troops accounted for roughly 20% of all scouts, which implies about 18,000 cases of LDS youth who were abused by fellow scouts. This much we do know. This 18,000 figure supports our conclusion based on our analysis here of the Australian claims that the global LDS Church could face tens of thousands of unresolved claims eligible non-scouting child sex abuse claims. No doubt about it. Complementing the 1.6 billion. Oh boy, it is going to be hard to get these guys through here. You might be bored missionaries. That's true. Yeah. Modern day Danites. Yep. They're coming for me. Man, oh man. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through. These guys are going to bring me to my knees here. Peter, I don't think it's bored missionaries. No way. These guys are way too hardcore for that. These guys got nothing better to do. It was pretty sweet that he gave me the heads up, though. That was nice. But Culch, I can see him knocking these guys down, man. This is some of these clips are definitely going to make the rounds, though. I'll tell you what. Oh boy. So the most important thing about this brings up is the fact that the $250 million settlement that was rejected in 2022. So the church ponied up $250 million and tried to pawn that off. However, according to the judge's ruling, the church's proposed settlement coverage of non-scouting abuse claims is left unresolved. So that's the problem there. Colch, the hero. Yeah, I've got the mods out there. Let's go, mods. I need to make more mods. Okay, let me see here. I gotta make a Doug a mod here. I need more help here. These guys. How do I make some more mods here? Moderation activity. Let's see here. Participants here. I got to go back to this other one, man. I can tell. Moderation activity. Oh my gosh. I gotta let me see if I can figure this out here. I'm gonna try to make you Doug. I need help, Doug. Doug, I need help out there. How do I make more mods? Holy cow. Sorry, these guys are Coach. Help. Okay, community moderation. That's what we need. Here we go. All right. Managing moderators, standard moderators. Here we go. Doug at Doug. Is it _Vincent? Doug, what is your username? Which one of these is Doug? Sorry, man. This is coming. Doug, let's see here. I'm trying to get you on here, Doug. Standard moderators, managing moderators. Okay, hold on. Doug, I have to paste the URL of a user to add as a managing moderator. So I've got to go to Doug Vincent here. Sorry, this is like the worst live stream. Maybe this is like the best live stream of all time. Doug, post your URL to your YouTube channel into the post. Doug, I need to. Can you post your username into there? Oh my gosh, I gotta add you as a model. How do I do that there? Hold on, Doug Vincent. What if I go to my YouTube studio? Okay, I'm not giving up here. I'm gonna go to content. Hold on, videos, and then go to comments, and then go to search for Doug. Okay. Oh, come on, man. Sorry. Oh, there it is. Okay, Doug, he put it in there. Okay, 9076. 9076. Okay, hold on. Here we go. 9076. No matching user found. How do you do it? Jeez, this is an absolute joke. I don't know how to do it. shoot. Oh, this is embarrassing. This is either the worst stream or oh yeah, okay. No. 90. What was it? 76. It's not doing it. No matching users found. I don't see Doug Vincent in here. Sorry, guys. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh boy. You see all the people that oh my gosh, my bands have got. I have banned like I used to only have like 1 or 2 people banned. Now I've got like 50 of them in here. Paste the URL of a user to add as a managing moderator. Paste the URL of a user. URL. There's a URL. So it's your actual YouTube account. You got to go to your main YouTube account here, Doug. Like your main one here. Oh my gosh, this is so cringy. This is so embarrassing. I don't know how to do it. I think these guys won tonight. There's no doubt about it. They won. I lost. These guys got me. Oh man. Oh boy. I don't know, guys. I think I lost. Don't let the bastards get you down. What do you I think we got him though. I think actually we got him here. We're taking him down here. Flamenco, we got him. I think we're getting him. What a bush league stream, man. What a bush league, boy. I guess you live and you learn here. You live and you learned here. Will we win? That's the question. William Charles, try putting a magic rock in a hat. That's not a bad idea. I can't tell the difference between people who are true and who aren't. I'm stumped. They got me. Oh man. Yeah, William, are you standing in the water? Oh my gosh. I had a couple of things that I wanted to go through. Oh man. Interesting here. Sorry guys. This is cringe. This is absolutely cringe. These guys won. I misspelled it? Doug, how did I seriously misspelled it? Did I? Oh my gosh. Okay. Content. What do we how do we go to, sorry, moderation here? Messenger account? Oh, okay, Doug, hold on. Okay, hold it. Okay, I see it. Oh boy. Okay, hold on. Shoot. Okay. Well, hold it. I'm getting there. Okay, hold it. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. Okay, hold it. Come on. Oh boy. I tried. Okay. Well, do we pretty much are we okay as far as booting these guys? I mean, can we get it going back up? I see that I think we got them mostly, right? Yeah. Pray to Elder Bet. I lost all the people who came on. Oh boy. Are we ready to keep going here or no? No. See, these guys are on there. Man. I think they got me. Yeah, they keep coming back up here. There's just like no way. Interesting. How do other people deal with this? That's what I want to know. There's got to be a way, because if you look at some of those other people out there, there's got to be a way to deal with these guys. Like, I've lost the whole stream here, the few people who are on here. Yeah, see? What's the response supposed to be? Boring vids, boring conversation. So how do you stop if they are... How do you stop them? I should just ignore them and let Culch clean them out? Okay, Culch, fine. I'm going to continue the pain and the suffering. I am not giving up. Okay? I am not giving up. They may dominate the chat, but Culch will take them out for us. Let's continue the pain and the suffering. I wanted to read this article. All right. For Australian victims of child sexual abuse, NRS resources, who is eligible for redress? You are eligible for redress if you have experienced CSA. What? Holy cow. Dave. Dave. This is Dave, my friend. What? Dave, this is the worst stream of all time. Dave, I really appreciate it, buddy, but this is this is subpar. This is bad streaming. This is not good, Dave. I Dave, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. I am so embarrassed, especially since you could cut up those clips and see those bad pictures and things in there. Oh my gosh. Okay. Who's eligible? Dave, really appreciate it, my friend. That's you're too kind. This is, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to continue on. I don't care. I am pushing forward. Press forward, saints. We are not going to let these guys stop me. Okay. No unhallowed hand will stop this podcast from progressing. I just want to tell you guys this. I'm looking deep into my camera. No unhallowed hand will stop this podcast from progressing. I'm not giving up. We're going to go through the rest of this. Who's eligible? Anyone who's born before 2010. If the abuse happened early. Okay, we got it. That's the end of this. Now, the other one that I had two other items that I wanted to go over, and that's LDS missionary numbers indicate a declining activity rate. This is very interesting. I've always wanted to go over this as well. Unfortunately, the chat has been hijacked, but that's not going to stop me. We examined reported numbers of LDS missionaries since 1999. A higher percentage of current missionaries are female or sister missionaries today. That's interesting. We know that anecdotally that definitely more sister missionaries are going on missions. Looking only at male or elder missionaries, the service rate is 36% lower than 1999. Wow, that is crazy. A lot less people are on missions. A long-term decline in member activity is likely a root cause. I definitely agree with that. Other possible factors indicating male service rates: reduced social pressures and stigma. That is definitely a thing. Higher rates of early return. It could be up to 30% now. More rigorous mental health screening. Hopefully, people who shouldn't be on missions are caught and then are not sent on missions. That's very important. Higher standards for mission calls. I agree. That's important. And long-term declining birth rates in LDS families. Elder Oaks bemoaned that in the last young adult devotional. So full-time LDS missionaries, we never got up to 100,000, but this was the spike here when Monson lowered the missionary rate there in 2012. That's when we saw a serious spike there of people going on missions. And you can see the sisters in particular really went up, significantly up when Monson had that spike. Now, elder missionaries as a percent of all missionaries, again, we're seeing percentage of people going is lower and lower. Less missionaries are going out there on missions. There's no doubt about that. The trend line is definitely trending lower. And that probably spells a bad amount of information on, member activity rates. Oh, that's it? 2 pages? That was it. Okay, now the last item here. Unfortunately, this stream has turned into an absolute debacle. I do apologize for that. The last one I actually wanted to go over here is I don't spend as much time as I'd like on my TikTok channel. I actually release new content on my TikTok all the time, but nobody ever watches it. But we are going to go over my own personal top 5 TikToks of all time. And so if you sort it, they have this new sorting feature on TikTok over there at the Mormon News Roundup. If you search to popular, we can look over my top content of all time. And I actually wanted to watch some of my top content because I don't know what my top content is on TikTok. I actually haven't spent that much time on here. So my first one is talking about MLM capital, Utah being the MLM capital of the United States and of the world. There's a reason that Utah is the MLM capital of the world. There's a reason. Yeah, and so this is an episode that I did with Glenn from Infants on Thrones, and you can see my background, Infants on Thrones, behind me. Glenn here down below is one of the OG Mormon podcasters out there. He's really, really something. He's, this is one of the last episodes that he ever did. He doesn't do podcast episodes out there at all. And I was one of the very last people who got him on one. So let's hear about the MLM capital here. It was a great pleasure to do that with Glenn. There's a reason that Utah is the MLM capital of the world. There's a reason that so much fraud is perpetrated, and it seems to be outsized from, the latest analysis here, Glenn, is that there's approximately 800,000 to 1 million temple recommend holding endowed members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but they are engaging in a fraud level which seems to be outsized from their normal population. And that to me is concerning. Why are we seeing these levels of grifting from Tim Ballard, from this case, from the other Las Vegas case? We continue to see it time and time again. And reporters like Lynn Packard and others keep shining a light on this. And I don't know. It's very concerning to me.
With that concern, like if you really are seeing that there's this disproportionate ratio of Mormons that are more easily exploitable, what do you do with that?
There's a reason that Utah is. Yeah, Glenn brings up a good point as to what you're supposed to do with that information. It seems like MLMs in Utah go hand in hand. There's no doubt about that. And that's extremely unfortunate. And it's probably built on the fact that, in Mormonism, you're taught to trust. It's really part of the genetic fallacy. You're supposed to trust your leaders and not question authority. And that can lead to incredibly harmful practices. We've seen a number of scams that have been perpetrated by Mormon leaders, including Bruce R. McConkie, including Paul H. Dunn, including, I would put M. Russell Ballard in there as well. It's just, it's a very harmful practice. And I was really glad that I was one of the last people to get Glenn on a podcast. And, some of the comments that are in here, it says it stands for Mormons Leveraging Mormons, MLM, Mormons Leveraging Mormons. That is sad, but unfortunately true. I do remember one time that I got a call. I do remember a time where I got a call from an old friend when I was living back in Utah. And I hadn't talked to her in years. She called me up on the phone and said, hey, how's it going, D-Base? And I said, that's great. And I literally said, this isn't about an MLM, is it? And I made it as a joke, but guess what? She wanted to sell me an MLM product. So it definitely happened to me as well. That's absolutely crazy. Now, Mormons are indoctrinated at the age of 4. That's one of the issues here. That's true. And why are followers there's a reason that Utah is. Why are followers of Joseph Smith falling for scams? That's obviously a tongue-in-cheek question. Now, he's not saying that Mormons are targets. They are the perpetrator at higher rates. That's the unfortunate thing, is that Mormons are perpetrators at a high rate, but they also fall for the scams at a high rate. That's really unfortunate. And religious congregations are perfect for creating downlines. It used to be in times past that you could get your ward directory and then talk to the people in the ward and try to prey upon them. They've tried to make it so that doesn't happen as much anymore, but unfortunately it does happen. And someone else tweeted out that MLM stand for Mormons losing money. And that's the problem, is that Latter-day Saints in particular can ill afford to lose out on the money from these scams, because bankruptcy rates in Utah and among Mormons are definitely higher than normal. And that's really unfortunate. A couple of other ones in here. Hear me out. It's all the government that's corrupt. I don't think so. I read that Mormon population is now less than non-Mormons. So non-Mormons are preying on Mormons. Well, oftentimes it's unfortunately Mormons preying upon each other. some of the largest Mormon Ponzi schemes like Val Southwick or the one that was in Las Vegas last year for $500 million, those are usually Mormons preying upon each other. And bankruptcy rates are very, very high in Utah. And I think we've got most of the denial of service done here. Have we got these guys? Have we kept them at bay? Culch has absolutely taken these guys. I kicked most of them out of the studio here. So let's see. They kind of brought my stream to its knees, but what can I say? These guys definitely got the first salvo, but I'm going to win the war here. I just want to take a look here. Have we got most of them out of here? What's the deal with this? I think we mostly got them here, guys. Appreciate Culch out there. Sorry, I couldn't get most of them in there. Okay, let's go on to I wanted to go over my top 5 TikToks of all time. I actually don't know what they are, and I'm just going on to the next one. The next one here is with Sophronia, who we did an episode together once upon a time. So let's see what Sophronia's got to say.
And I think if they really want to put their money where their mouth is, they'd rename BYU, Brigham Young University. I mean, he was probably on record the biggest racist prophet authority that we've had. And there are so many quotes from him. He was pro-slavery. It was just appalling. And they've already demonstrated that they know how to rename a church. They can rename a school.
And this is the entire, Sophronia brings up an absolutely excellent point. You know, I've got I've got 2 degrees from Brigham Young University, and I taught there for decades. Okay, I'm embarrassed when I have to put onto my resume that I have BYU on there because I'm worried that somebody might Google it and figure out all of the horrible things that Brigham Young said. I'm embarrassed to put BYU on my resume now and to talk about my affiliation with an institution that bears that man's name of all the sexist, homophobic, and racist and misogynistic things that he said. It's time for BYU to get renamed. And also, it's not just that BYU itself needs to be renamed. It's that the buildings in BYU also need to be renamed because there's a lot of people who have made reprehensible content that buildings are named after them. So we need a revamp of BYU all the way from top to the bottom. Nelson is on the board of trustees. I think he's the president of the board of trustees for BYU. He could presumably rename not only the university to get rid of that racist legacy that Brigham Young left us, but he could also rename the buildings and do a lot of other things at BYU to show his commitment to diversity. Now, this last year, the BYU did, Provo, the campus, did finally have an Office of Inclusion and Diversity, but that is a very small step along the path of what President Nelson could do. Yeah, I mean, the church definitely did bring up a department. They don't call it a DEI. They call it an Office of Inclusion because they want to be different. But the church needs to rename BYU, period, flat out. They can't continue on with that man's legacy. That's just absolutely reprehensible. And let's read a couple of these comments here. I don't want the Mormon church to quietly change into a generic Christian religion. I want them to die on the vine. I don't really know what that means. I do understand the sentiment there. I'm not sure what he's getting at. I mean, even as a believer, it was easy to see that Brigham was a horrible person. And that's really, unfortunately for me, I didn't know all of the things that BYU said. I mean, I didn't do the research. I didn't do my homework. I didn't know all of the crazy things that Brigham Young said. And I guess that's just on me. I just didn't know. They don't really care about diversity and inclusion. That's probably true. And they renamed Dixie College. That's true. See, that's the thing about it is the Dixie College, they renamed that to Utah Tech University. It's time for BYU to follow suit. And Rob said, who's one of my favorite TikTokers out there, he says, it's about time that somebody said it. I agree. And Brigham Young was a genocidal maniac. You know, he also engaged in a number of harmful murders that we covered last time as well. I mean, you know, covered up the Mountain Meadow massacre, for instance. Isn't it the Office of Belonging now, which is a changed name? I think so. I'm not exactly sure what BYU's the office of it is named. Okay, that's number 2. We're just going to do the top 5 out of that. We're just going to do the top 5 Mormon News Roundup TikToks of all time. I don't know what's coming on this, so no, I shouldn't have been so trusting. See, why was I so trusting to the other people that were coming on, man? That was just, I should have, as soon as we were having the denial of services, I should have not let anybody on. So I think it's good. I think it's a good sport. You know, they're just trying to get on there. That's fine. Dives, rule about the StreamYard: only invite people that have been participants in the chat previously. That is not a bad idea there, Doug. So, but I've had 13 This is episode number 13 of the Real Talk Mormonism, and this is the only time we've really had a lot of trolls on there. So what can I say? What can I tell you? Okay, let's go on to the third one. We're just going to do the top 5 here. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is using the financial cushion of its $100 billion in investment portfolio to go on a temple building spree. Okay, the first quote that I want to get your reaction to is this. In Pocatello, Idaho, a city of 56,000 people in rural southeastern corner of the state, a recently constructed temple stands at 71,000 square feet. Its polished limestone flooring was quarried in Bethlehem, Israel, the biblical birthplace of Jesus, and wood for its doors was imported from the Congo River region. The temple costs $69 million to construct, according to estimates by the church's contractors on city building permits. What's your reaction to this first quote here, Rebecca?
Again, I feel like if this is information the church is putting out, this sort of idea that we're from the Congo and from Bethlehem, who are they trying to impress, really?
Yeah, so this is the reaction here to the Pocatello, Idaho temple, which was covered by the Wall Street Journal. And this is one of the very first confirmed temples, at least in recent memory, that we knew the price tag of the temple. Now, we've come to find out the price tag of a number of different temples after this, but it wasn't since the Washington, D.C. temple, in which the church claimed that back in, I believe the church built Washington, D.C. in 1974, that the church claimed that it only cost $15 million, which I severely doubt. We found that the Pocatello, Idaho temple, according to the contractors, cost about $69 million. And let's review a few of the comments here. Let's see here. They're doing it to preempt the IRS penalties. If they show their funds go to religious stuff instead of malls, they get no less or penalties. I disagree with this article completely. The church doesn't need to build temples to maintain tax-exempt status. All religious institutions in the United States are granted tax-exempt status, no matter if they spend a penny or no matter who they are. The church doesn't need to build temples to keep their tax-exempt status, period, end of story. Number 2, hard to understand why a loving parent would have a basement for torturing his offspring for not believing in him properly. And this is the old argument here of if your mind hasn't decided to believe in Mormonism or Christianity or Islam or whatever it is on bad evidence, how can you say that a loving being would then torture you eternally, forever, for a finite crime? How can an infinite punishment be just or fair or loving for a finite crime? It just brings up the point here that if I had in my basement a torture chamber, and if I told my children that if they didn't do what I told them to do, that I would put them into the basement chamber and not just torture them sometimes, but torture them eternally forever, no one could possibly consider me to be a loving parent. But that is what we are expected to believe, most people, about God. Let's go on a couple more. I read comments of hellfire and damnation speech. Why does a loving father have a furnace for his children that don't agree? That's a creepy threat. That's a true statement. At least I responded to some of these. Okay. Okay. We got two more. We got 2 more to go here. My blood pressure is still pretty high from these DDoS guys, man. These guys, boy, I'll tell you what. Okay, let's go on to number 4, where I talk about chilling similarities between Russell Nelson and Jim Jones. He said, Jim Jones says, quote, "Don't listen to those people out there. They are the enemy. The only truth you need is right here within our family." And if you compare that to Russell Nelson's advice or other very vicious cult leaders, there's a lot of these out there. There's a lot of quotes that Nuance Ho lined them all up. This is very similar advice to high demand, high pressure, and cult tactics, which is very alarming.
Yeah, I mean, it says everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very troubling, you know. And the other thing about it is that if you think back to Joseph Smith, the LDS Church, you know, Joseph Smith was a curious boy who questioned his religion and decided to do extensive research outside of his family and outside of everyone that he knew in search for the truth. Yeah, so I did have Jane from 21st Century States onto the podcast once upon a time. I'm one of the very few people outside of Britain who is able to get her onto the program here. Jared Higdon, welcome to the program. Dude, that's why I hope if any religion is true, it's Mormonism. Hell sounds terrible, but I can deal with a budget heaven, which is basically what the Mormon conception of afterlife is all about. Thanks for joining the program, Jared. This has been an insane ride there. But yeah, I point out that there's a lot of similarities between the cult-like tactics of, some of these cult leaders. I'm not saying that Russell Marion Nelson is a cult leader, but he uses similar tactics of threatening his flock. So let's see a couple of comments here. If you showed his talk without reference to him and told people it's Scientology, all Mormons would condemn that talk. I agree. In fact, there was a TEDx talk which talked about if you hook up Mormons into MRI machines, there was a study that was done, and you give them different things that were said. Sometimes you tell them that was by a prophet, but it was actually by C.S. Lewis. They will say that they feel the spirit when they're in the MRI machines more when you tell them that it's from a prophet, even though it was from C.S. Lewis. And if you tell them that it's C.S. Lewis, but it's actually a prophet, they feel less of the spirit. So it just shows you that the spirit is really a confirmation bias. That's what I'm talking about here. Okay, a couple other ones here. As Mormonism continues to shrink, leadership will resort to more and more extreme policy. Well, we saw that this week in the transgender policy in particular. So that seems to have come to fruition. Except Rusty would make you pay the church for the Kool-Aid. Oh, man. You know, you have to pay for everything in the church. That's crazy. Okay. Okay. And my number 5. So my number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 is the statistical report in 2021. Let's see what's going on with that. Guys, why did they take the statistical report out of General Conference? I do wonder about that. Yeah, it used to be in times past that in General Conference that there was a statistical report that was read off with the number of stakes, the number of wards, the number of people, all of that information, but all of that has been reduced.
I think they have a hard time finding somebody to read it with a straight face into the camera.
But if you go onto the website, they did release it at the same time here. And this is what Michael W. Towns Sr. said. Baptisms are up. Church haters are in tears of rage because baptisms are up year over year. The new children of record is 93,000. That's holding somewhat constant. Convert baptisms are slightly on the rise. There's no doubt about it. Missionaries are basically holding strong. Senior missions are, again, basically holding strong. More temples in operation. The general church statistics here from the Salt Lake Tribune says that converse children missionaries fuel post-pandemic surge in LDS growth. There's a lot of positive developments as the faith's memberships tops $17.2 million. What do you guys think of the statistical report? Yeah, that's as the church metrics seem to be going down. That's why they moved the statistical report out of General Conference, and now it is only published on the church's website. Real for Life, welcome to Real Talk Mormonism. This has been a crazy episode. I don't know if I can trust myself to run another episode here. This does remind me, though, before I let you all go here, man, this is A-list guest, though. I'll tell you what. I'll show you one more video here that I actually just made yesterday, and this is perfectly going to sum up tonight. I actually made this and I showed it to Culch here, but this is expectations versus reality here. So let me just show you how I think my stream looks. This is a perfect sum up of tonight here, and we're gonna go out on this one. How I think that it look and how I actually look. The one on the left versus the one on the right. So I have a vision for the Mormon News Roundup, and it doesn't quite always work out as well as I'd like. So let me play this for you. Expectations versus reality. What I think my channel looks like versus how it actually is.
Channel.
Here we go.
What I think my channel looks like.
A preacher was standing in a busy university courtyard warning students about the consequences of sin and rebellion against God. While sharing his faith with a crowd of intent listeners, he was interrupted by a Christian student who went out of his way to explain, "I want everyone to know that not all Christians are like this judgmental preacher here. God is love." Just then, an atheist from among the crowd of listeners spoke up.
What my channel actually looks like.
Is that about sums it up there for you? Was that pretty accurate here, folks? Was that pretty accurate? One more time here. This is expectations versus reality. What the Mormon News Roundup is in my mind versus what we see here. Oh, Colby, hey, welcome to the program here. I'm sorry you missed out on this. This was the worst stream I've ever had, but what can I tell you? One more time. Here's expectations of the Mormon News Roundup, and here's reality.
What I think my channel looks like.
A preacher was standing in a busy university courtyard warning students about the consequences of sin and rebellion against God. While sharing his faith with a crowd of intent listeners, he was interrupted by a Christian student who went out of his way to explain, "I want everyone to know that not all Christians are like this judgmental preacher here. God is love." Just then, an atheist from among the crowd of listeners spoke up.
What my channel actually looks like.
I think that pretty much sums it all up tonight. I am so sorry out there. I am so embarrassed about this horrible program. This was absolutely ridiculous. We got absolutely owned. And I'm questioning all of my life's choices out there. For those of you who are just joining, you missed a bunch of trolls spamming the chat and a bunch of male porn. These guys, I am so gullible. I am such a noob. I've got to do some research, figure out what I need to do in the future to see what I can do. We had a denial of services. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. This was such a joke. I had a couple things I wanted to go through. Oh my gosh. No, I don't even know if I want to keep this video up. I should delete this video. This video, it was this video was gross. There's nothing wrong with the human body. There's not, but there's certain things that, should be just private. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm a prude. Maybe that's my Mormon upbringing. I'm gonna have to take a shower after this. This is I don't know. Maybe I need to rethink my entire maybe I need to rethink the entire program here. I don't know what I need to do, because I really want to what I really wanted for Real Talk Mormonism was to have a lot of Mormons call in and talk about mostly Mormon stuff. But I can't quite get that going. My vision for this channel has been not so good, which is why it has no views out there. I just want to go back one more time here. Dave, thanks for the super chat there, buddy. That does mean a lot. Oh my gosh. Okay, so hey, man, this video would be a badge of honor. Don't erase. I don't know. I am embarrassed. I am literally blushing on this. YouTube will delete it for me. Maybe they will. Maybe this will violate the terms of service, because I don't even know. So what happens here, Doug, is when you upload a live stream like this, YouTube can't check it, obviously, while you're going at it. But if you upload anything that violates YouTube's terms of service, they will copyright strike it afterwards. So maybe this will just die a horrible death, which is probably where it should be all along. As far as Jacob calling in here, yeah, that's good. That's a good point there, Culch. I will just show you that I do. You know what? I got to reward you guys for hanging in there this entire time here. Let's go over some of the content that I have lined up here as far as videos are concerned here. Let me search here. I've got literally 100 videos that I have lined up here, but I just want to show you guys, since you guys hung in there, this is a sneak peek of what is going to take place on Tuesday. Tuesday night, I'm releasing the video on Jacob Hansen where I accept his debate. And let's just take a quick sneak peek at that right here. I'll just show this to you here. Let's watch a minute or two of it. Jacob Hansen is the creator and host of the Thoughtful Faith YouTube channel and podcast. His content focuses on exploring faith, particularly within the context of the Latter-day Saint LDS tradition. I like the look that Jacob has on his face, by the way, for he's got the emotes here, as you see him with the, look at this, that yes, 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 yes. I like that. He's got a very intense mannerism with me. Let's go keep on going. Latter-day Saint LDS tradition. Hansen is known for engaging in formal debates on religious topics, which he believes help clarify beliefs through contrast and discussion with those who hold differing views. Brother Hansen also regularly espouses anti-gay, anti-trans, and homophobic rhetoric in the name of his favorite God. I hosted Jacob on the Mormon News Roundup in July of 2023 in episode 68. Oh, and just so you know, I'm D-Days, the host of the Mormon News Roundup, the handsome guy on the left. Like and subscribe. And don't forget to think celestial while you're at it. Now, while Jacob and I were discussing the Mormon Church's unprecedented global temple building spree, Jacob made an incredible claim during that program. Let me play it for you.
Every dollar that the church uses is for humanitarian aid. The building of temples is a form of humanitarian aid if you really believe that temples and temple covenants do good for humanity. What? In fact, I would argue that the greatest poverty program in the world is the LDS temple program, because when people make and keep covenants in temples, when our missionaries go and teach people to live the laws of the gospel, we actually fight poverty.
Wait, we fight poverty by building a temple? Theodos, my man, thank you very much. I don't deserve that super chat for tonight. I don't deserve anything for tonight. What I deserve is to be kicked off permanently off of YouTube and be banned completely and relegated to the dustbin of history. But I do appreciate that. Now, Jacob says Let's back that up here one more time. This is the claim here. Let's back this up. We got to listen to this one more time.
Humanity. In fact, I would argue that the greatest poverty program in the world is the LDS temple program, because when people make and keep covenants in temples, when our missionaries go and teach people to live the laws of the gospel, we actually fight poverty, but we fight it at its roots.
Fight poverty by building a temple? I don't understand here. Help me understand this, guys.
So any funds given to the church to further the work of Zion is a charitable humanitarian contribution.
Come on, bro. Seriously.
This was the single most disliked short I have ever produced. In response to Cult's reposting of that clip, Jacob challenged me to a debate. Debate me, bro. And Cult brought up this debate me, bro. Let's go. And this is the Ramiumtum rumination. This is like the Zoramites, I think, by the way, here. Let's see. I haven't done a debate since my 9th grade speech class at Hillcrest Junior High School in Murray, Utah, which I lost, by the way. You lose. I have never made a response to Jacob because, quite frankly, I'm not a debater. Coward! 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 Jacob, on the other hand, he's a really good debater. He's done debates with all kinds of different folks in all kinds of different venues, talking about Mormonism, Christianity, the resurrection, and a number of different topics.
Debatable.
I would say that Jacob is one of the best active LDS debaters around. He's intimidating and he's very forceful, and yeah, he's very knowledgeable. And if you go back and look at that Trent Horn debate, I thought that they both did a very good job. I'd really like to give a reaction to that. Maybe we'll watch a couple of minutes of it. I don't know. I'm feeling my second wind here now that the trollers have left me alone. I'm a little emotional, guys. I'm a little bit weak here. I'm still a little bit sad, but let's keep going. This video is giving me the strength I need. You know, what we need to do is listen to some Press Forward Saints by General Conference, Press Forward Saints, Mormon Tabernacle Choir. If you can't listen to that and feel inspired, you can't listen to anything. And knowledgeable. So Jacob is claiming that building LDS temples is the single best way to alleviate poverty on this planet. So let's read this tweet out. This is important here. Okay, this is the debate. Is the temple and its covenants the greatest anti-poverty program ever? It would literally be a formal debate with equal time. If you can't defend your opinions, you should keep them to yourself while the grown-ups are talking. Let's effing go. I need an LFG, please, folks. I need an LFG in the chat for if you can't defend your opinions, you should keep them to yourself while the grown-ups are talking. I need an LFG in the chat here. Otherwise, I got to end the stream. Let me see. I'm checking the chats here, folks. LFG. Let's go. Grown-ups. Oh, I'm not seeing the LFGs. I got to end this. I got to end this chat. I got to end the stream here, folks. If you can't defend your opinions, you should keep them to yourself while the grown-ups are talking. Thank you, Harold. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, continuing on. Now, I have never seen LDS temples mentioned in connection to fighting poverty whatsoever, except in the context where people say that the less temples are built, the more money the LDS church would actually have to be able to help other people on this planet. It's actually the opposite. That's the argument here, is that the less temples that you build, the more money that the church will actually have and could potentially use for humanitarian purposes. It's actually the exact opposite.
I want to see the temple. I'll go inside someday. I'll covenant with my Father. I'll promise to obey. For the temple is a holy place where we are sealed together. As a child of God, I've learned this truth. Our family is forever.
Now, Jacob, so that's was put together by Culture, and appreciate your tweet out there, sir. Philippines, great place, very poor. I agree with you 100% there. You know, this is what we should have played, guys. While those guys were on the DOS attack, we should have played this. This would have brought in the spirit and driven those guys away. Now, Colby, by the way, Colby, we talked about this with Mr. Reddish here, whose comments are down here below. Maybe I'm going to take Colby Reddish on my team for this debate because I need somebody who's actually smart, unlike somebody who just runs a mediocre Mormon movie review channel. So maybe it's going to be me and Colch versus Jacob and somebody on Ward Radio. But We're gonna hash out the details on this, but I have a vision for how this debate is supposed to take place. So let's see. I do need some backup, and maybe Colby can have my back. He hasn't absolutely agreed to it, but he's said he might be on my team here. So let's keep on going here. Now, Jacob won't release any of his so-called evidence that building LDS temples helps alleviate poverty unless I agree to a debate. Okay, so let's read this tweet. This is very important here. See, I said, so he says, come on my show and we can do a discussion about it. We can do a discussion about this topic. And this is what I said. I said, show me the evidence here. Show me the evidence that building a temple helps with poverty. Before we have a debate, can we at least have some of your grounding of the knowledge? Where are you coming from here, buddy? And he says he won't show it to me unless I do a debate. So that's why I said I never pinned you as someone who would light a candle and put it under a bushel. I do remember the inspired words of Jesus at the end of the debunked long ending of Mark. He said, go ye into all the world and preach my gospel, as long as they're willing to go onto your YouTube show. Go ye into all the world, preach the gospel unto every creature, as long as they're willing to go onto your YouTube show to debate you. He won't say any of his evidence. None. Man, yeah, exactly, Daisy. He's holding the evidence hostage. So listen to me. Jacob has evidence that building a temple is the single greatest way to alleviate poverty on this planet, but he will not share that with anyone unless they debate him. And he's the only one who has this evidence in the whole planet. He's holding the entire world hostage and all the poverty in the world hostage unless somebody debates him. And that's literally why I said I have a moral and ethical responsibility to go on his show, because if he has evidence for that, it must be brought out to light. That is why I have agreed to do the debate. Chris says, I'd help out, but I just laughed the whole time. Chris, big Chris, we just need you in the ring, buddy. Good one, Daisy. Okay, so let's continue on with this video here. I appreciate you guys being with me. You guys stuck through it. I cannot believe that you guys are still here. You guys are just a glutton for punishment. Jacob is saying that he alone is the only person on this planet who has access to this information. Yeah, so here's the clip here. It says, you can't see it very well here. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. That's why I said, I think I have some evidence here. That's why I said it shows a guy here, have a temple. See this guy, please help me. I have nothing. God bless. And what are you going to, this is what Cult's put together here. I think Cult's put that together, right? So he says, the man is suffering. He's unsheltered. He has no food. He's homeless. He says, please help. And what are you going to do? You're going to hand him a little temple. I said, and that's why he's always insulted. Jacob's always insulting. Are you throwing shade and running too? Okay, I'm not. So I'm going to release this full video on Tuesday. I guess we'll keep going here. John, you were here from the beginning. You're still here. I'm still, yeah, that was you, Coach. Nice work there. Let's keep on going here. However, I feel like I have a moral obligation to do this debate. So I guess I'm going to formally accept it.
Accept.
Now, some details will need to be ironed out, like which platform this will appear on and who's going to moderate it. But yeah, okay. So, and then if you take a look at this once again, so I can't keep tweeting back to the Thoughtless Taint. I keep finding more evidence here. And that's that Cebu, Philippines temple where it's poverty in the rear. And then, yeah, look at how the poverty has helped this particular community in Cebu, right? Look at what it's done for that community. Oops, hasn't done jack squat. Hasn't done anything for the building a temple in the middle of a poverty hasn't affected the people at all. I am answering the call and look forward to researching this topic. So I just want to be clear here. Jacob is accepting the burden of proof. Now, okay, so, and again, one more time here. If we read this tweet here, it says, I hate to admit when I'm wrong, but I'm going to have to do it right here. I keep finding more evidence that building hundreds of multi-million-dollar esoteric castles is the single greatest way to fight poverty on this planet. See below. So that's where we have fight hunger. And instead of giving somebody a sandwich or giving them a microloan or helping them find access to clean water or improving their living conditions or anything else, instead, you're going to give them a Book of Mormon. You're going to give them a Masonic, you're going to give them a Masonic oath. You're going to give them the garment of the holy priesthood. And that is supposed to help their poverty. I fail to see the connection here. A couple of thoughts on this debate before it takes place. There's no empirical evidence to suggest that the construction of Mormon temples has any direct impact on alleviating poverty. While temples serve as significant religious and cultural symbols for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS Church, their primary purpose is spiritual, focusing on sacred ordinances and worship rather than economic development or poverty alleviation. Yeah, and like Coach says, careful. The esteemed journalist, Coach, come on, esteemed journalist, come on, buddy, please. Yeah, if Luke Hansen, maybe that is the trade-off here. I'll take Colby Reddish, and he can have Luke Hansen. Believe me, I'm getting the better end of that stick. Hey, Chris. I am not thinking celestial. I apologize, sir. I will fix my thinking right away. You're right. I wasn't thinking celestial. When all of those guys were spamming me, I was not thinking celestial. I was thinking I want my mommy. That's what I was thinking about. Studies and reports on poverty reduction typically highlight factors such as education, unemployment opportunities, social services, and economic policies as key contributors to addressing poverty. In contrast, the financial resources allocated to temple construction are primarily for religious purposes and do not inherently include initiatives aimed at combating poverty or economic inequality within the broader community. Therefore, the relationship between temple building and poverty reduction remains unsubstantiated by concrete evidence or research. Yeah, so this is the whole point here. We have a claim here that building poverties helps alleviate human suffering. And it's not just that it helps, it's that it's the single greatest way to fight poverty. So in this debate, if I can show anything else that has a more positive effect through data and research, then I win. And all I have to do is say, you haven't met your burden of proof. You haven't provided the evidence. You haven't provided the sociological studies. You haven't provided any link whatsoever to building a Masonic temple to helping anyone with poverty whatsoever. I failed to see the link. I've not seen one article on this. We're going to continue watching this. Now, addressing poverty effectively requires targeted strategies that address both immediate needs and long-term systemic issues. Here are 5 top ways to fight poverty, which are supported by multiple sources. Number 1. Okay, we're not going to get into those 5 things at this time because I am going to be releasing this video on Tuesday. But while we're at it, there's one last video, I guess, that I'm going to play here that Colch wanted me to play this video too. I guess I just make too many videos. What can I say here? And it's this video right here that Colch wanted me to bring up here. This was dealing with Jacob Hansen and his controversial father, Ira Hansen. I made a video talking about these 2 individuals. I'm sure this isn't going to bring me a lot of favors, but I guess we're going to play this one while we're at it here. These 2 have a controversial connection that I'm going to bring to you at this time. I'm going to release this video later, but since you stuck with me, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. I guess we're going to play it in totality here.
The weight of inheritance, generational hate, and its victims. Hate is a heavy burden. It weighs down generations. It poisons minds and hardens hearts. Sadly, this toxic inheritance often passes from parents to children. This transmission of prejudice can have devastating consequences. It can fracture families, it can tear apart communities, and it can fuel violence and discrimination. We must break this cycle. We must understand the roots of hate. We must recognize its impact, and we must choose empathy and understanding. It's the only way to heal the wounds of the past and build a brighter future. Ira Hansen once said, "We must preserve our heritage at all costs," a statement that has been interpreted as a call for exclusion and intolerance. Ira Hansen, a podcast host, has become known for his inflammatory rhetoric. His infamous quote, "Diversity is a threat to our way of life," has fueled much of the bigotry associated with his legacy. His words are laced with bigotry and intolerance. He targets minority groups, he spreads misinformation, and he uses his platform to incite hatred. His words are not just offensive, they are dangerous. They normalize prejudice, they embolden extremists, and they create a climate of fear and intimidation.
We have the time here, so let's back up and actually read these quotes here. This is from Ira Hansen, Jacob Hansen's father. Considering only about 2% of adult males are homosexuals, the numbers show why homosexuals have been historically regarded as such a threat. Many homosexuals are grossly disproportionate in child molestation cases, and youth. And I keep a rough tally of homosexual, heterosexual locally, and half of the molestations involve homosexuals. That's reprehensible and does not conform to most data. Most data shows that really the people who are at most risk for abusing children are really cisgender white males like myself and Ira Hansen for that matter. And on African Americans, the lack of gratitude and the deliberate ignoring of white history in relation to eliminating slavery is a disgrace that Negro leaders should own up to. Martin Luther King's private life was trashy at best, and King Jr. is as low as it gets. A hypocrite, a liar, a phony, and a fraud. Yuck.
Embolden extremists, and they create a climate of fear and intimidation. We must hold him accountable for his words. We must challenge his hateful ideology. Jacob's father, Ira Hansen, is a politician. He has a long history of making racist and homophobic remarks. These remarks have been widely condemned. Human rights organizations have called him out. Community leaders have denounced his words. His actions have consequences. They normalize prejudice. They erode trust in institutions. And they send a message that hate is acceptable.
Let's read this quote too. On Latinos, this is Jacob Hansen's father. Locally, gangs and their associated criminal activity are obviously dominated by immigrants, especially Hispanic immigrants. You cannot read a story about criminals or watch a news report locally without noticing a grossly disproportionate amount of Hispanic involvement. And again, this goes contrary to the data too. Really, quite frankly, a lot of the people in Nevada who are of Hispanic origin, a lot of them are not documented immigrants. Therefore, they have a less likelihood of committing crimes because they are afraid of deportation. So the crime rate for immigrants, even those who come here without papers, undocumented, is far lower than the normal population. Just he's wrong in every respect of all of his data. But this is important here. This is the man who is informing Jacob's worldview. We saw regressive information on homosexuality, racist behavior, anti-immigrant stuff. This is who has informed the thoughtless taint. And you can see the harmful ideology that Ira has passed down to his son, which is why I called this video title, Legacy of Hate.
We must reject his hateful ideology. We must demand better from our leaders. Hansen's rhetoric, such as, we must remain vigilant against the dilution of our culture, has left a lasting impact on his followers. Fractured family, the price of intolerance. The Hansen family has been deeply affected by Ira's beliefs. 7 of his children have left the Mormon Church. They cite their father's bigotry as a major factor. This is the human cost of hate. It divides families. It causes pain and alienation. We must remember that behind every act of hate, there are real people who are hurting.
Okay, I just want to back this up here. I hate to go in here. You can see Ira right over here. On second to the right, who is a lawmaker in Nevada, and I believe he's also runs a successful plumbing building. Thank God for free speech, so we can know who Ira is. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And let's. I want to back this up. I just want to go a little bit ahead here too. If you see this picture here, which I got, all of this is from public information from Jacob Hansen's channel. I didn't. This is all what Jacob has put out. Look at this family here. I mean, just look at this family. All of these people, every single last one of them, have left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, except for Jacob only. Except for Jacob. How can that be explained? Seriously, that's exceptional. That's a lot of people. And the only thing that I can tie this to is Ira Hansen's harmful rhetoric that has been pounded into these kids. And a lot of them are returned missionaries, but they're all gone. The only one left is the one that absorbed that hate. Is the only one that absorbed the bigotry, the homophobia, the sexism, and the racism. That person is Jacob Hansen. He absorbed that, and it really became a core part of who he is, which was drilled into him by his father. But for the grace of God, let's be quite frank here. If I had grown up with that kind of verbiage, I could possibly see myself believing the same way. When you're drilled in as a child, these type of harmful mentalities, this type of literal brainwashing of Mormonism, sexism, racism, homophobia, when that's drilled into you, as Ira feels very comfortable in the public sphere talking about these things, imagine what happens if it's done behind closed doors in your family. But it has broken up this family. And a lot of people think that I'm just going to rejoice that all these people have left Mormonism. And they're going to be like, D-Base, aren't you glad that all these people have left Mormonism? Shouldn't you just be rejoicing? I'm not. I don't want to see this family broken up. Why would I? I want to see this family be a loving and successful family that has a lot of joy. And I don't see that breaking up this family is something that I would rejoice over, that they're no longer members of the church. You can disagree with me, but I want this family to be happy. And I'm quite frankly sad of the way that this has all turned out.
We must remember that behind every act of hate, there are real people who are hurting. We must choose compassion. We must stand up for what is right. The Hansen case is not an isolated incident. Generational hate is a pervasive problem. It affects every corner of our society. It fuels racism, sexism, homophobia, and religious intolerance. It undermines our values of equality and justice. We must recognize the systemic nature of this problem. We must address the root causes of bigotry. We must create a society where everyone feels safe and respected. The fight against hate begins with each of us. We must choose love over hate. We must speak out against bigotry. We must teach our children the importance of tolerance and empathy. Change is possible. We can break the cycle of hate. We can build a more just and compassionate world. It starts with us. Let's be the light.
I'm not a bigot like you.
I always put the joke at the end of those 3-minute videos. I'm not a bigot like you. Well, I've let all of my cats out of the bag here tonight. I played the debate video already. I'm looking forward to this debate. I've got a vision for how this debate is supposed to take place. We got to have good moderators, number one. We need to go to a channel, and I'm thinking that maybe we should do it on Mormonism and the Murph. And I want to have this be a debate that crowns a winner. So you can see it in a YouTube video that you can have a poll function, and the poll at the beginning of the debate polls the audience on, it's a yes or no question. Is the building of LDS temples the single greatest way to alleviate poverty on this planet? It's a yes or no question. We poll at the beginning of the debate, and then we'll poll again at the end of the debate, and whoever moves the needle more is the winner of the debate. And we need to do that in an honest way. And I would call upon those people out there that are listening to this, that you need to be honest when we do this debate, that we don't try to skew it one way or the other just to try to give our champion the winner. We need to have an honest view at the beginning and an honest view at the end. And what I expect is that none of us will move the needle very much, because typically people who are going to come to this debate already have their mind made up. I imagine that a lot of Jacob's followers will believe that, yes, building temples does alleviate poverty. And I imagine that a lot of people who watch this channel will say, no, there's no evidence for that. But we're trying to persuade the people who are undecided. So we're going to have a actual winner of the debate. Okay. And we're going to have maybe 10-minute opening segments, which I'd like to have those pre-recorded. That way it can be used multimedia. And then we'll have responses to that. We'll have an interrogation portion. Then we'll have a back and forth portion. We'll have moderation. And I'm really looking forward to this. I really feel like this debate subject is going to be so easy for me to win, because I don't know, I'm not aware of any data whatsoever that a building of a temple does anything for anyone, not just poverty. All it does is a few people say that they have a spiritual experience inside, but there's no reason to believe that there's anything efficacious that takes place inside of a temple. There's no reason to believe that we need signs and tokens to walk past the angels who stand as sentinels to gain our exaltation in spite of earth and hell. And there's no reason to believe that there's poverty, that they help with poverty. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Inside the temple, you promise to give all of your times, possessions, and everything with the Lord has blessed you, or with which he may bless you, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's not that you're making a covenant with a being that says, you know, if I pray and do my sacraments and I'm a good person, then you will bless me with riches. It's actually the exact opposite. It says, no matter what I do, I'm going to give it all away to the church. That's hardly a poverty fighting program. And he wants to talk about covenants. And I've talked about this before. There's no evidence that anyone has made a covenant with anyone inside of a temple. In order to demonstrate that a covenant has taken place, if I go down to my real estate agent and we enter into a covenant and write a legal agreement and both of us sign it, we can prove to other people that a covenant has taken place. In order to confirm that a covenant has taken place, you have to prove that the other person on the other side is a thinking agent and has agreed to the stipulations of that covenant. That cannot possibly be demonstrated. At least I've not seen evidence for that. Therefore, there are no covenants that take place in the temple at all. So you can see I'm letting a few of my cats out of the bag here, but as Doug says, it actually reduces the tax base, which means people have to pay more to make up for the loss that the temple cost. And the other thing that we can point to this particular debate anecdotally, and I'm letting some of my evidence out of the bag, I don't care because I believe that evidence is on my side, is that bankruptcy rates in the state of Utah are the highest among the nation consistently. So it appears that, you know, why does Utah have poverty when there has lots of temples? You know, we can take a look at Utah, which has 30 planned or announced temples, and we can see that the socioeconomic status of the average Mormon is slightly less than the national average in the United States. It's slightly less, the household income. So it doesn't see that it doesn't follow that the temples help out at all. Well, if temples are such a great program in fighting poverty, we would expect to see Latter-day Saints at the highest socioeconomic status. And that is not what we see. We see them very much average or even a slight bit below average. Okay, so anyone else, and it does no overall benefit to the community. Also, go back to what President Nelson said in the last General Conference, and they put the addendum in there for his last General Conference talk. I want to go to Nemo the Mormon here real quick. Nemo pointed out that a footnote was placed into President Nelson's last General Conference talk, which is germane to the discussion that we have here, and he released a short on that. Let's see if I can get to this here. Mormon leaders, tithing refund. Let's see if I can find this. Sorry here. How did I miss this? Hold on. How the Mormon Church uses Texas. Sorry, I can't seem to find this right off the hand. But President Nelson put in a footnote. Hold on. I know this is kind of boring here. Yeah, how Russell M. Nelson hides in the footnotes. This is really germane to the discussion here, too. The public does not benefit from a temple, only select members. That is true. See, what Jacob is really arguing for is actually against the church's own teachings, as Nemo will point out. It's not just that the church has taught in some times past, you will be able to find prosperity gospel taught, but it is not in accordance with what President Nelson is currently teaching. And that can be demonstrated by the use of his footnotes in the last General Conference. Let me play this.
The woman you love attacks truth, thinks celestial, and don't question your testimony. The Apostle Paul prophesied that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. There is no end to the adversary's deceptions. Please be prepared. Never take counsel from those who do not believe.
Okay, so I want to cover a couple of these points here already in this. Number one, the some shall depart from the faith. That's from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1. Okay. And now the Spirit manifestly said, actually, let's get the King James version, since that's the one in the King James Bible here. Sorry, King James. Now the Spirit, let's see here. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter time some shall depart from the faith. But guess what? President Nelson in this particular talk says that was by Paul. But guess what we know? Guess what the best scholarship says? Most scholars believe that Paul actually wrote 7 of the 13 epistles. And here's the ones that we know that he wrote. 7 are very much, very accurately supposed to be from Paul himself. That's Galatians, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Philemon, Philippians, and 1 Thessalonians. And guess what? 3 of the epistles in Paul's names are widely seen as pseudepigraphic, namely 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and Titus. So President Nelson doesn't even know that Paul didn't write 1 Timothy, which is what he's quoting from. His knowledge is so poor that it's absolutely ridiculous. He also, one of the most amusing anecdotes of President Nelson is in his Lazy Learners and Lax Disciples talk, that he says that he was quoting Hebrews, and he said that Paul wrote Hebrews too. And Hebrews is widely known that it is not even purported to be from Paul. Okay, the person who wrote Hebrews is anonymous. President Nelson doesn't know his Bible, flat out, straight out, end of story, period. So give me a break about all that.
Seek guidance from voices you can trust, from prophets, seers, and revelators.
So seek counsel from voices you can trust. This is known as the genetic fallacy, folks. The genetic fallacy says that, and we can Google this one too. The genetic fallacy is a logical fallacy that occurs when someone judges an argument based on its origin rather than on its content. That's what all of Mormonism is. Mormonism is nothing but a giant genetic fallacy, meaning you can only take trusted content from me. Never take counsel from those who don't believe in Russell Marion Nelson Sr.
And from the whisperings of the Holy Ghost.
Hi everyone, Nemo here. Russell M. Nelson's talk from the recent October 2023 General Conference has sparked much debate and discussion online. Many who try to defend the more divisive things he said are offering clarifying statements and excuses, in the form of things like, what he was actually trying to say was, but there is a problem with this. Russell M. Nelson is capable of qualifying and clarifying his own statements. And in fact, in this very talk, he did just that.
When I was a young intern, my income was $15 a month. One night, my wife Dancel asked me if I were paying tithing on that meager stipend. I was not. I quickly repented and began paying the additional $1.50 in monthly tithing.
Okay, real quick, put a 1 in the chat if you think he's actually in the chair, and a 2 in the chat if you think he's not in the chair. But this is actually the general conference talk in which he pre-recorded it in the conference center in advance. This was 2 general conferences ago.
Was the church any different because we increased our tithing? Of course not. However, becoming a full tithe payer changed me. That's when I learned that paying tithing is all about faith, not money.
Okay, so this is really actually getting to the core of Jacob's argument. Remember, he said that the temple and the associated covenants will help fight poverty, but we're going to see that President Nelson disagrees with the thoughtless taint.
As a full tithe payer, the windows of heaven began to open for me. I attribute several subsequent professional opportunities to our faithful payment of tithes.
Great. You ascribe them to that. Is there any way that you can demonstrate it? I understand your faith. I understand that you ascribe meaning to these things, that you look for supernatural explanations for your mundane life events. But can you demonstrate it? Because if not, it's of absolutely no worth to the rest of us.
He then went on to qualify this, but only in the written footnotes of his talk. This is not to imply a cause and effect relationship. Some who never pay tithing attain professional opportunities, while some who pay tithing do not. The promise is that the windows of heaven will be opened to the tithe payer. The nature of the blessings will vary.
So this is very, very important here. Even President Nelson himself says that following the covenants in the temple does not result. There's no causal relationship between those two things, that if you keep the commandments, that God will not lift you up out of poverty. President Nelson himself said that from the footnotes of his General Conference talk. This is in direct opposition to what Jacob Hansen is espousing in our upcoming debate.
The footnotes for these talks are written at the same time as the talks themselves. So it isn't the case that he realized after giving the talk that it was going to lead people to believe in a cause and effect relationship, and therefore he clarified it using footnotes. He knew from the get-go that people would infer a cause and effect relationship, and instead of clarifying that in his talk verbally, in the medium through which the message would be initially received, he decided to bury it in the footnotes in the written format for plausible deniability. He's happy to let people believe that the cause and effect he implied is universal, so that they will pay tithing. But should he be challenged on it, he can point to the footnotes and say, I told you, your mileage may vary. But
this is very important as well. And I think this is a point that Nemo perhaps misses. I think this is all for legalistic reasons. We don't want to have the church doesn't want to have a cause and effect relationship with tithing, because it wants your tithing to be a complete donation, and that the church has no obligation whatsoever to assist you or do anything, and that there's no promised blessings that come with tithing that can be manifested in reality. And this actually goes to some other countries which have passed, like Japan, for instance. It's an anti-Mooney law that says that you can't promise eternal salvation in Japan passed an anti-Mooney law which says that you can't promise eternal salvation in exchange for donations. And the church wants to avoid municipalities in countries like this, where the church could run afoul of international law by promising blessings, physical blessings, or eternal salvation in accordance with paying tithing. It's an anti-Mooney law here. Government. So let's see here. They want to dissolve the entire church, but it's about salvation and donations. Yeah, this was back in a new law in Japan takes aim at unification churches' coercive fundraising tactics. So Japan's parliament on Saturday enacted a law to restrict malicious donation solicitations by religions and other groups. This is really important here. Let me try to make this a little bit bigger here. Over here. So this is it. You in Japan, you can't promise eternal life for paying tithing, and you also can't, tell someone that they're going to go to hell for not giving a donation. So the church realizes that a lot of international countries are going along with these lines to avoid these very harmful fundraising techniques. So President Nelson, in his footnotes, says that when you pay tithing, that you shall expect absolutely nothing in return in this earthly life, and that your results may vary. Okay, That's really important for our debate.
Let me know in the comments below the like button. Do people often read the footnotes after the fact? How often do you or did you used to revisit the written conference talks and look at the footnotes? Regardless, given that general conference talks are first delivered in a spoken medium, written footnotes ought to be for attributing credit to quotes or ideas, rather than for qualifying statements, because those qualifying statements won't be received by the primary audience, at least not on the initial receipt of the address. Here's an example of Russell M. Nelson using a footnote for attribution.
Please do the spiritual work to increase your capacity to receive personal revelation.
The footnote to that comment? Russell M. Nelson's own April 2018 General Conference address. It's not enough that everyone else has to quote Nelson ad nauseum, he's even quoting himself. Even so, his use of the footnotes to provide clarifying statements does show us that he is capable, if not in the spoken moment, then certainly in the footnotes, of clarifying his statements of his own accord and adding nuance where necessary. This means that apologists and others online can stop trying to justify what he meant when he said,
Never take counsel from those who do not believe.
because he has proven himself capable of making clarifying statements, and so the lack of such a clarifying statement in this instance shows that he made a clear statement and there is nothing else to be read into it. He truly wants members to not take counsel from those who do not believe. I don't need to explain to you the harm this will do in mixed faith marriages, and many online are reporting that their relationship with their believing spouse has deteriorated in the aftermath of this talk. But this is part of the broader in-group, out-group, us versus them narrative that is pervasive in the LDS Church.
President Russell M. Nelson has taught, the time is coming when those who do not obey the Lord will be separated from those who do.
And so if you want to support me in continuing to challenge that narrative...
Okay, guys, we've made it to the end of this broadcast. I don't know what to say. This was the most crazy live stream I've ever had. I didn't have a lot of people, but I mean, that's the way that it is. Thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end. I'm going to try to go back and edit out. YouTube has a function where you can try to edit out some of it. So maybe I can like remove some of the most harmful stuff out there. What can I tell you? Thanks again. I really appreciate it. I'm kind of embarrassed about it, but thanks a lot for being with me. Have a great night.